It's a Marty party.
I am wearing my Minnesota Vikings sweatshirt here. I'm a big Vikings fan. Their last game of the season was last weekend, unfortunately, because they didn't make the playoffs. They finished at 9-8, better than one of the playoff teams playing today. But they didn't win their division. They didn't do good enough to get a wild card slot. Fortunately, they didn't finish last in the division like I thought that they would. The Lions did, which pretty cool. Hey, I'll take better to be anything but last, preferably first, but sucks to be last. So glad that they didn't finish in the bottom of the NFC North. I know not everybody's into sports. I know not everybody's into football and everything like that. But for me, it goes back to when I was a kid. I used to watch it with my dad all the time. It was a moment for us to bond. I literally remember we would go to church on Sundays. There was 2 services on Sundays at the church we went to, the American Lutheran Church in Huron, South Dakota. 2 services every Sunday, one at 8:30 in the morning, one at 11 a.m. Now, my family, I was oldest of 5, big family. There was no way my parents were wrangling all of us to in time to get to that 8:30 service. So we always went to the 11 o'clock service. And that noon football game, it's 1 o'clock Eastern where I live now in New Hampshire, but it's 12 Central. So church started at 11, would get out right at 12. And I remember me and my dad just like power walking to the car in the parking lot, trying to catch kickoff over the radio and listen to the first few snaps or the first drive on the radio as we drove home. And then jump in there, adjust the antennas because we never had cable. It seemed like, always had to use the bunny ears and tinfoil and all these contraptions, and then watch the game together. Something we really bonded over the years, and all the way up until his final year on Earth. We were watching Vikings games together, and those are really special memories for me. I go all the way back to the 98 NFC Championship, and anybody that is a Vikings fan has just immediately got PTSD, especially if you were around back then. That year, the Vikings finished their regular season at 15-1. I mean, they had set the NFL record for most points scored by a team in a single season. Gary Anderson, their kicker, had set an NFL record for not missing a single field goal attempt or extra point attempt. He was batting 1,000. This team had Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Jake Reed. Like, they were Super Bowl favorites. They get all the way to the NFC Championship. They're up 7. They have a chance to put the Falcons away with a field goal, a chip shot. They got the best kicker in the league by a mile. He misses that field goal. Gives the ball back to the Falcons. We're not up 2 possessions anymore, only up by 7 still. They march down, get a touchdown, and now it goes into overtime and they win in sudden death. And the Vikings go home. That would have been the Vikings' first Super Bowl in like 30 years, I think. We haven't been to one since. Just absolutely heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. I remember that. Me and my dad both just like sitting there in disbelief. Like, did this seriously just end? We thought we were going to the Super Bowl. Just absolutely heartbreaking. That was 1998. And then again in 2009, the Vikings made it to the NFC Championship, this time with Brett Favre at the helm as quarterback. And they played the Saints in that NFC Championship game. That was Bounty Gate, if you remember that. They just beat up on an old man, Brett Favre. I felt bad for the guy. Lost that game, okay. And that was a good team that year. They had a lot of promise. And then again in 2017, or would have been the 2018, but the 2017-18 season. I remember that season. We just had this magic rabbit's foot in our pocket. The team was doing really well. They had the backup Case Keenum in at quarterback, and they were just winning against all odds, and they go into the playoffs. They have a first round bye and go straight to the second round where they play the Saints. The Saints were heavily favored. They weren't expected to win. The Vikings that season, I believe, were kind of seen as kind of a gimmick. But my dad had just died. And of course I was like, of course they're going to go win a Super Bowl right after my dad dies. And he'll have never been able to see it, but it felt like there was magic in the air. And they go to play the Saints again. Comes down to the wire. Case Keenum throws it up on a last-ditch effort to Stephon Diggs. And as Paul Allen said at the time on the call, Diggs, sideline, touchdown. The whole play is the Minneapolis Miracle. Gives me chills right now just thinking of it. I was sitting in a little apartment here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, just freaking out. I was jumping up and down. I teared up. I started crying a little bit. I'm not really proud to admit that, but like it was emotional. I was generally an emotional mess at the time because my dad had just died, and I wish I was watching that game and experiencing the Minneapolis Miracle right there with him. And because of that Minneapolis Miracle, I was like, this is it. One more game, NFC Championship game against the Eagles, and we're going to the freaking Super Bowl. It's destiny this year. It's finally happening. Minneapolis Miracle happens, going to Philadelphia the next week, play the Eagles, and they absolutely wipe the floor with us. It was ugly. Not even close. No Gary Anderson down to a single field goal moment. They just absolutely destroyed us. By like the second quarter, I was like, yeah, we're not winning this game. This is ugly. Ugh. Brutal. And so it's through that, that was the last NFC Championship game we went to back in 17-18. We haven't been back since, certainly haven't been to a Super Bowl. We're one of the few teams that have never won a Super Bowl. This fan base, people like me, we've been enduring season after season of having hope, supporting the team, loving the Minnesota Vikings, and just always eventually having our heart ripped out. And it's rough. This season, hey, they salvaged the season and they finished with a respectable record, and I give them kudos. But it's also really sad, We've got two players that have been with the Vikings for a long time. They're two of my favorite players. One, Harrison Hitman Smith. He's one of the safeties for the Minnesota Vikings. He was drafted by the Vikings 29th overall in the first round. And he's played since then in 208 NFL games. 208. And he started every single one of them as a Minnesota Viking. Every one of those 208 games in the purple and gold. He's a six-time Pro Bowler. He's got 21 and a half sacks. He's got 39 interceptions. And he's an amazing human. He's a good dude. He quarterbacks the defense under Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator. And man, they had a stout defense this year. They had a championship caliber defense this year. And I just hate that Harrison Smith will never have. He's a Hall of Fame worthy safety. He should be considered for the Hall of Fame, and I'll be real disappointed if he doesn't make it into the Hall of Fame at some point. If he had a Super Bowl, he would be a shoo-in. And it's just a shame that a guy that has had such a great career and is such a good person won't be able to get that ring, because it looks like he's probably going to retire after this season. He hasn't made the announcement yet, but all signs point to he played his last game. And then there's the other guy, CJ Ham. He's a fullback. He was actually an undrafted free agent out of Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Not exactly known as an NFL producing powerhouse of a college. That was back in 2016. Made it onto the practice squad and just worked his way up from there. Since then, he has played 141 games as a Minnesota Viking. He's a two-time Pro Bowler, and he was a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. And by all accounts, everybody that knows him, has played with him, met him, he's a good dude. Genuine human being, just awesome guy. He plays a critical role on the Vikings offense. He's one of the rare fullbacks in use in the modern NFL, but he's just absolutely critical on blocking and doing all the different things he does to support the quarterback and the offense every game. Fortunately, this last game, again, it looks like he's probably retiring after this season. And I was really happy for him that this last game that he played, he did punch it in for a touchdown. He got a running touchdown in his what may be his final NFL game, and that was really special. So, I like I said, just another guy that I'm bummed he'll never get that Super Bowl ring. I'm going to be a little bit sad next season if the Vikings take the field without those two guys on the roster. But it is what it is. Everybody retires at some point. They had a great career, and they've got a lot to be proud of. And I've enjoyed rooting for them. They've been amazing people. As far as next season goes, I've got a lot of optimism for the future. I always do as a Vikings fan. This year was kind of a surprise because the year prior we'd finished 14-3, and yeah, we had kind of a rookie quarterback coming in and JJ McCarthy, but all the other pieces seemed to be there. And through a series of injuries and a carousel of, 3 different quarterbacks that played over the course of the season, just not enough things went our way. And I think we were a half game out of the playoffs. That sucks. So hopefully we can right the ship next year. I'm going to be right there next year. The Vikings play the Patriots next year in Foxborough, so it's going to be right down the road from me. I'm going to try to make it to that game. I don't know. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to keep watching. And now I watch these games with my daughter. You know, as she's gotten older, started to get into it, and I feel like I'm creating those same moments that I did with my dad now with me and my daughter, and that's pretty special. That's pretty cool. Sports bind us together. You know, rooting for a team gives you commonality with a lot of other people. There's so much division going on. Sports are something that we can come together around. And yeah, you might, you know, hate the other people, like fuck the Packers and, you know, all that stuff gets said. But like, we're all football fans. We all love Sundays. We all love the thrill of the game. We love the way it brings us together with our friends and families. My wife makes this amazing dish. She has this amazing wing sauce recipe that she uses, and when she makes wings on Sundays, it's chef's kiss, like just amazing. And yeah, I can't wait till next season now. You know, being out here, I'll continue to watch the Patriots to the playoffs, but I'm already looking forward to the next season watching the Minnesota Vikings.
It's a Marty party. It's a Marty party.